minutes.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yo. It's Linhart.
Okay, yo, what up? I like this Splatoon song, Liquid Sunshine. All right, whatever. Okay, sweet. What up, what up? We got an exciting episode today. Let's get right into it. Is that cool?
Let's do it.
Should I turn the music down more?
I like how the idea of more was like basically muted.
All right. Here's the audio. What were we going to do? Low pass loop. That's right.
Yep.
Hello and welcome back to the Mix of Music podcast. I'm your host DK, and with me, as always, is my lovely co-host Low Pass Lou.
Hey. Yeah. As of last night, technically, there was a low pass hit to my hairline.
You want to tell the audience the backstory because that made no sense without any
Without
context.
So if you guys are in the LA or Orange County area, in Buena Park, there is an event called, what was it? The 17th Door Fearless. And you had to sign a waiver basically saying like, yeah, you know, it's cool if you guys touch me. If there's
It's a haunted house with a waiver.
Yeah, it's a haunted house with a waiver that even says like if you die, that's on you. Like if you get injured, that's on you. You can't sue us. Well, part of the rooms is one of them. They have like a barbershop chair, and I'm over here thinking that they're just going to be scaring people, but no, they really go for your hair. So they size zero me on like 2 lines, making me look like Mr. T. So last night I decided, you know what? I'm going to look pretty gangster for the next couple days. I'm going to go size 0.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, today, so Lou is looking extra
Guapo.
hairless.
Oh, yeah.
Hairless. Because you
Ooh.
even like trim the beard to match it.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's I'm gonna say it. Like, I know this is a little cocky, but I rock it. I make
There
it
you
look
go.
good.
And then I'm looking the opposite. I'm looking extra hairy because every November, I've been doing this since high school. So yeah, over a decade, every November I do Movember, and I just grow a mustache every November. And so all of October for the last few years, I've been growing out the entire beard. Instead of like having an ugly phase of the mustache, I just do the entire beard all month long and then just shave off the beard and leave the mustache in November.
So I think for that month, you should create Daddy D videos, but in the loving, accepting father persona. I don't know if you've ever seen that old man on Instagram that's like, oh, hey, son, what are you doing there? Here, how about you take out the trash while I wash dishes? It's like we're a team. We're on the same team, bud.
What?
Yeah, whenever you have the giant mustache, I'm always like, DK looks like the dad that grew up and his kids are in like their 20s now. And he's like, hey, bud, how you been?
That's right. That's right. And the creepy part, as my wife says, the creepy part about the mustache, the worst part is that it actually looks good. And so
that's the Miami DK. That's
right.
Daddy D in
that's
Miami.
right. Well, anyway, today we have a very exciting episode. We wanted to talk about something that I think almost everybody would be interested. I think this is going to exclude very few people that are listeners of the podcast. But we're going to talk about some ideas and some thought processes that you should be having, some ideas. We're trying to trigger and spark some ideas for you about how to make your first $1,000 in a month.
Yeah.
Now, from music, specifically from music. So the thing is, when you may start making money from music, I'm gonna say this. The first things first is that there's not going to be a point where it's like, oh my gosh, I started doing well. Like all of a sudden you're going to look back and you're going to be like, when did I start doing well? I didn't realize that I started doing okay. Like maybe the first time that you pay rent with 100% of the income that you make from like music, it'll be like a really big, cool experience. But after, like, most of the time, you're going to look back and it's going to be slow, gradual increases year over year, month over month. There's no real turning point.
Yeah.
I think the biggest turning point is like decisions that you make and the level of commitments that you decide to keep for yourself. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to talk about different types of business processes and business ideas. A lot of this is taken from an old Brian Hood video when he was doing Six Figure Home Studio, which is now Six Figure Creative. We were talking about getting Brian back on the show. He's been a guest on the show. But first off, this is the Mixing Music Podcast, so we're going to clarify and say that this is going to come, a lot of this business comes from the idea of charging per song or per project and not per hour or per day.
Yeah.
Per hour or per day is a very normal type of billing system that I think works for people who waste your time, but doesn't work when you're trying to make more money per hour, squeeze in more projects, and do better in the long run. It's not scalable, meaning that assuming that you have 40 hours of commitment, right, a week, that you're able to actually block out 40 hours week by week, someone's giving you work, like that might be worth it, but you're not incentivized to do better.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, if you start doing less hours, if you're not working, you're not making money.
Yep.
And no matter how good of a job you do, you're not increasing your income. So there's a lot of negative things with charging per hour or per day as well. And then on top of that, like if you charge per project or per song, you are incentivized and you make more money per hour if you delegate, if you automate, if you maximize your systems, which is kind of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
So, Lou, I'm going to talk about a few different things.
Sure.
That we need to. This is a few business models, and this is ripped directly from that Brian Hood video.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's so good that you want to be paying attention to this. So number one, as a mixer, don't charge per hour.
Yeah, don't do that.
And I would go as far as to, if you're trying to mix, then stop tracking. Like, stop tracking per hour. Like, that's so difficult to. It's always an awkward conversation. Hey, I want you to mix. Yeah, but like I charge per song. Yeah, but like we're already here in the studio paying, and I'm paying per hour. Can you just do it right now? Like, nah, because this is a rough mix and you got to explain. It's just so messy that we do not recommend tracking per hour and then offering mixing.
Yeah.
Per song. Like, you got to pick one or the other.
The only way to get around that is having a clause of like, at the end of the day, that's the end of the mix.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to pay me per hour, then there is no after hours.
Yeah. And exactly.
And that just gets messy.
Even then, it's like, all right, we're going to do this per hour. It's just such a messy way to do business, to split it up like that. So there's two options. If you want to do both, then you're going to have to commit to mixing during the session per hour, or even including recording in the per project or per session rate. So it's like, it's $400 a day. And you know what? If that includes mixing, I'll include mixing during that time.
Yeah.
Right. But we do not recommend. It is such a messy business to do per hour for tracking and then per song or project for mixing, and trying to do both in the same business. It's just too messy. It's annoying. Don't do that. And again, we as a whole recommend that if you're trying to mix, and even if you're trying to record, it's more scalable and it's more incentive for you doing better work, faster work, if you charge per project, per song. And we're going to talk about that as well. So these are the 4 levels of business, and these numbers are very specific that Brian Hood gave, but it's more of the concept that we want to talk about. And number 1 way to make $1,000 a month is something along the lines, and this is the exact numbers that Brian gave, which is 30 songs at $35 a song. So high quantity, low cost. Lou, have you ever, at the beginning of your career, did you do that? Like a high quantity, low cost wise? I did most of my early career that way.
I didn't go as low as 35. I went as low as like 100. And the main reason was because I was in LA. There was a higher minimum wage and stuff. So in LA specifically, you can do a little more. But realistically speaking, like I did do it for a little bit, and I found a major pothole in there, which was a lot of the people that were trying to pay me that amount also didn't know that their level of investment was actually considered small in the grand scheme of what they were looking for. And because of that, I was working with some people who knew what they were investing with, and there was a lot more people who just expected a higher product than I could provide at the time. You know, and it wasn't a matter of like expectation versus my want to do it. It's like I just didn't have the skill set yet, so I couldn't charge more. Because I couldn't charge more, there were people who were looking for a deal and were expecting more. And so it was one of these potholes where it's like, well, this is what I can offer at this price point. You know, this is 18-year-old me trying to get into this industry, and you know, I'm sorry. You know, it's not a deal based on I'm just trying to give deals. It's a deal based on my skill set. So that price point also made it to where some people just didn't take me seriously.
Of course. And that's one of the issues that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So we are talking, this conversation is based off of being a provider, not being the consumer. Obviously, the consumer thing is people will look at you skeptically. There's people that are lower skill level and higher maintenance are going to hire you at a lower price point.
Yeah.
Professionals do not even consider people at $35 per song for a mix.
No, they don't.
So, and the professionals are the ones that pay more and cause the least amount of hassle, that pay invoices immediately, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, but there are pros to this. So number one, this is the way I didn't quite do $35 per song. In fact, when I was charging the least amount, I was charging, I think like $45 an hour, and I was doing hour. I wasn't quite into mixing yet. And the cool thing about charging so little is that one of the cool things is that you do have potentially a higher level of interest and a wider audience range. That audience is typically less skilled, less invested in their own business, less invested in their art. Not like they're younger, which means usually more high maintenance, less experience. They want to mix the song, and they're telling you how to mix the song, not letting you do your own thing. And that's partially because you don't know what to do. Like you're still fairly fresh, fairly new, or at the very least, if you're not charging that much, it's also a showcase of how much confidence you have. So even if you've been doing this for years and you're still charging very little, that might be because you don't feel confident enough and feel like a level of imposter syndrome if you do start to charge more, which we'll get into a little bit later. The pro to doing high quantity, low cost, especially towards the beginning of your career, is that if you over deliver and you kill it and you give them $100 service for $35 per song, if you give them $100 mix for $35 and everybody walks away like this was the best deal of my entire life, I can't, like what's going to happen is that each and every customer is going to be a marketing agent for you. Like they're just a billboard. They're going to find potential clients for you, people that might be interested. Oh my gosh, Lou, there's this guy that, well, let's say we say like business signs. There's this guy that made a business sign. He charged $200 less than I thought he was going to do, and he did a fantastic job.
I would consider that.
Oh, you want to check out this guy making business signs? So it's immediate marketing, word of mouth. And to be fair, word of mouth is almost 100% of everything that we do for our business, which is a white glove creative service, right? It's not, what we do is not a template-based thing. What we do is per song, per artist. So that's a little bit different. We're going to talk about scalability in that sense. So $1,000 a month is 30 songs at $35 a month. Now, another thing that you have to consider is that when you're priced that low, one thing that you do have to realize is that you're also competing against the fucking internet.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be $25 to $35 mixes available at any single time on Fiverr.
Go to Fiverr, yeah.
Yeah, on Fiverr. So one way that you can beat people out, and this is another pro, is that if you're charging that little competing with the internet, people are more likely to hire you even at the same price point because they see you and they know you and it's face to face. And that goes a long way versus some random person that kind of shows his face sometimes maybe on the internet on Fiverr. And again, people that are looking for quality service typically don't go to Fiverr to begin with. So anyway, the math is 30 songs, $35 a song. The problem with that is that you have to constantly be looking for clients. So Brian Hood said, if you have 60 to 70 leads every single month, if you do well converting that and you get 50% of those leads every single month, that's going to be $1,000 a month. And that's just not sustainable.
It's not. Honestly, when you think about like having a conversation with 20, 30 people, can you remember every little detail that you agreed to over the phone? No, it'd have to be completely systemized through like email, file pass, everything. If there was any revision request, that also goes against your dollar per hour.
Yeah, there's been a few people that did that, maybe not quite $35 a song, but still relatively low. So high ticket, low ticket prices.
Yeah.
And then
You've seen me refund people just off of not because I thought they were bad people, but the level of attention versus like what price points we agreed to for a certain service. It's like, whoa, hold on. You just wrote me a 44-page revision request. I think we are the wrong person for you. Which I'm not saying revisions are bad. I'm just saying sometimes when you get into those dollar points and you start looking at how much you're doing per hour, not 20 to 30 people. That's a lot of people to actually keep track of. Every little detail needs to be paid attention to just as well. Sometimes that lower price point is actually shooting yourself in the foot for efficiency purposes.
Yeah.
Like once you get to a higher dollar point, like if you're doing label work, Michael Jackson had how many revisions and then went back to number 3?
That's right. Like what was that? Was that Billie Jean?
It was
Billie
like
Jean
almost
like 97 revisions, and they went back to mix 3. Anyway, something like that. Bruce Swedien there. Anyway, the reason why number 1 is also good, another pro to this, is eventually as you scale, and if you can completely automate your system, this is the ideal situation.
Yeah.
Meaning that if you can somehow figure out a way to totally make your business like template form, or like to automate it completely where you have to do 0% of the work or only 1% of the work involved in order to get these products out, then you're going to eventually get to number 1, because then you can beat people's pricing, maintain the same quality of work, and just make your income by scalability of like how many customers you serve. And if everybody's happy, you're going to have more people spreading your brand.
Yeah.
So you're going to hit this point where it's like, okay, I'm charging a lot, but now I'm working with a lot less people. And if you can somehow figure out a way to automate it so hard and so heavily that you can go back to this number 1, even better, and you can actually scale your business that way even more. But in our industry, that is almost impossible. One of the only ways that I've seen it done creatively is there's this online e-mastering service.
Yeah.
That it's what is it? It's Aria. I don't remember what it is, but the dude, literally, the mastering engineer literally programmed a robotic arm and twists knobs on his mastering desk. So it's going through analog tube gear, and it's literally just twisting knobs. And that's scalable because it can run 24 hours a day, 24/7, and he doesn't have to be there. Thus, he could charge $35 a song for mastering, and it's still analog mastering, and if people think that that's important, so it's just totally scalable. Like that's one of the exceptions why that's okay. But most of the time, again, we are a white glove business, meaning that each project is handpicked and is customized for the client. It's not like a generalized product.
And what's funny is you do also have to consider, like, if you are at a certain dollar point, you are competing, aside from the internet people, you are competing against AI nowadays. You know what I mean? So part of it is going back to it. You need to give that service. So if it's too many people for you to be able to give like attentive service to, then you need to find a way to shrink the number and still be able to maintain like a growth pattern.
Yeah, absolutely. So maintain that growth pattern for sure. Number 2 type of business, and numbers wise, if you're going to break it down, is 10 songs at $100 per song. Now, this is kind of probably where most of the people are going to land. This is kind of where you and I landed. I remember charging $100 per song per mix, actually for like a couple of years.
I remember when we first started working together, I asked you how much you were charging because I was like, oh, you should be charging X amount. And you're like, no, I charge 80. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Was I doing that little?
You were doing 80.
At the very beginning?
Yeah, because I remember like being shockingly... And that's not upset, but like the shock alone was enough to have me like, what? Why? What are you doing?
That's interesting. That's crazy. Yeah. And I think again, I think that partially, even me, I'm like, I think that was partially due to confidence, but it was also partially due to like market value. I was living in Utah.
Yeah,
where
exactly.
Overhead is really low.
Yeah, I think that's where like our difference of like starting price points was different. Like LA's minimum wage was very different than like Utah's minimum wage.
Yeah,
so
and like
$100 was more accessible, and it's here.
Yeah, and the demand of the service is just totally different as well.
But now you're doing. I know you're doing really well on your numbers and everything. I know you're getting paid a fair amount and stuff, but that comes back to like as you increase your numbers, your clientele number might shrink, but it comes back to the service. Like once you increase that number, the people that stuck with you at that $35 an hour range are also expecting not just the same quality service, but if not better, they're not expecting you to just be like, oh, I charge 100 now. And they're getting still the same 35. And maybe now that you have more time on your hands, they're getting the same level of communication.
Yeah, absolutely. On that note, you mentioned the per hour thing. Yeah. On number one, $35 per hour for 30 hours is $1,000.
Yeah.
If you can somehow, and most people have 30 hours in a month outside of their 40-hour a week full-time job that they can dedicate to making an extra $1,000 a month. It's again, the only difficult thing with that tier 1 and even for tier 2 or all of them is just the sheer amount of volume of leads that you need to create. So, which is tough to do because a lot of the time it's going to have to be in person, and we could talk about ideas to generate leads. It's not something that it's not as simple as paying for Instagram or Google Map ads.
Yeah,
that can do a little bit, but it's not as simple as that,
Yeah, not only that, but I guess you can say confidence built behind the veil of an ad is not really a thing. Yeah. Confidence and trust, breaking down the barrier to trust is something that is super important. Anyway, number 2 is, realistically, if you do 10 songs at $100 per song, that's like 2 songs a week. Songs a week at $100 per song. Yeah, it's a really doable thing.
That is very doable.
Yeah.
It's super doable. As far as like how long it takes to mix a song, very doable, but it is a little bit more difficult to find clients. So you're going to have to generate at least 20 to 30 leads a month.
Yeah. No, more than that.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like, you ever heard about like how to break down the percentage of people that would likely buy like merch from you if you're an artist on Instagram? You take 10% of your total following. That's how many people are going to like. Take 10% of that. That's how many people are going to comment. Take 10% of those, and those are the people that click on your link. 10% of those are people actually buying. So you really only got like a 1% shot of your total audience, of them buying merch. Now, if you're reaching out and talking to an artist every week, you make it a point that every day you reach out to 5 people. In 30 days, you could hit up 150 people. If 10% of those people were to actually start a conversation, that's 15 leads.
Yeah.
But it takes 3 to 5 people per day for you to reach out. If you're just starting out, that's actually very doable. You can just go on Instagram, go on the explore page, look for new artists, and just see any music that you really like.
You know what I remember? I know that people often complain about how to find leads. Like it's those people that, whether it's through lessons or through conversations, it's like, I just am unable to find clients. And I think it's because I live in fucking Cincinnati, Ohio.
But the internet
and like,
exists.
Yo, you're not on the internet. You don't go out to take people to coffee. So let's do a little bit of a tangent here. 5-minute tangent. Number 1, like couple ideas to help spark your mind. So 1, if you are truly a creative, you should be able to creatively find ways to find leads. This is part of being creative. So use your creative genius to find leads. Number 1 that we always suggest is budget, like put cash into an envelope if you need to, but budget at least once a week taking someone to coffee or to lunch. Like budget that in and make sure that you pick a day, you always reach out to people, take someone out to lunch or for a coffee at least once a week, minimum. And budget that into your monthly budget.
Yeah. Another way you can do that is what we've done at the studio, which is mixers, little seminars and everything.
That's how we did it with, we did open mics. And
if you were to do $150 a month as your budget, right? $150 can buy quite a bit of soda and snacks and stuff like that. You just do like a Pass the Aux event.
You don't have to even bring any.
Yeah.
You could just not take any bookings for a span of 2 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
And as long as you have like a space that's comfortable for anybody to know, like if you're doing it out of your home, I wouldn't recommend doing an open mic where people can just walk into your home and know where you live, right? But I mean, if you have a commercial location, that's one of the ways that I increased my income significantly was I started hosting hip hop open mic nights, uncensored open mic nights, and that blew the studio up. Like that increased my earnings quite a bit as far as the studio goes. But anyway, getting traction indoor, that led to a lot of lead generation. Everybody respected me as the person putting it together. It was great. The trust was built. Another thing that you can do, and this is something that we did at the studio that a few interns have done that was surprisingly really effective, is all they did was compliment people on Instagram.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this song is so great. And they commented it. Hey,
Yeah.
like, I love your music. And it's not like, come book us. It was just like, oh my gosh, I love
Yeah.
your music.
But
Hey,
one of the
this is
turns
amazing.
of doing that is literally that people are like, who's this person? And they're going to go to your profile and see what you do. And if
Yeah.
they're interested, they might bring it up. If not, you can always bring it up later. But just having a genuine conversation of something that you either you like of theirs or you mutually like. Like recently I found a client over Pokemon, which is hilarious. But I just saw that he was collecting cards and I was like, hey, by any chance, have you checked out the artwork for the upcoming set? And the guy's like, oh, you do Pokemon? I was like, yeah, I love Pokemon. And he's like, oh shit. We got into a conversation 2 days later. He's like, hey, I just noticed you actually master. I have an EP coming out. Like, would you be interested? I'm like, sure. And we just started a conversation, but the funny thing is it was just over saying like, hey, I like your mutual interest.
Yeah, and that goes into the number, I guess, like another end of this tangent is that the secret to marketing, or sorry, not marketing, the secret to networking, networking, and here, this is a big deal. This is a big deal. This is going to be a game changer for a lot of people. This is how you keep it from being scary, and this is how you make it effective, is don't try to sell your product. Don't even bring up your product. The main goal when you meet people is just to relate to them and try to be their friend.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but most people don't want to talk about work when they're not working.
Or like if they are interested in your product, they will ask you and they will find out on their own. You look cooler, it's less stressful, and again, like what you're doing, and is even if they're not a qualified potential client, then if they like you, they will know who to recommend you to. It's like, hey, I met this dude at the open mic that does this service, or at the bar that does this service. And
Like,
it's like,
you should
hey, I
talk
might
to
know
him.
someone that might that's been needing that. But if they don't like you, they're not even going to find that person, offer it to you, or recommend you to anybody else.
Yeah, the funny thing is, so my friend, actually our friend Diane, DB, she goes to an engineering mixer every Wednesday, and this and that. It's kind of like a lunch. She invited me to go. Couldn't make it, but somebody that she met there came from Mexico City. He's like new to LA and everything. Obviously speaks Spanish, right? Be weird if he didn't. But he also does live sound, and I've been looking for more Spanish speaking live sound engineers. And so she recommended him over. I'm like, you know what? Since you came from DB, like I kind of trust you a little more, because DB wouldn't send me people that shouldn't be working with us.
Of course.
So the funny thing is, even though me and her are both engineers, we both don't need each other's service necessarily. The cool thing is that we can also recommend people that kind of match up alongside us. So when you go to networking events, it isn't just about finding that client, but sometimes people that can connect you to potential clients.
Yeah.
In this case, I found somebody that can actually work alongside me, and going back to like how we price things out, right? Whether it's 35, 100, 500, whatever. At some concerts, I'm working with a fixed budget, and I have to look at, okay, well, I have X amount of work. I need to be able to offload some of this work. I'm looking for assistants and things of that nature. If you're looking for work, it's not always the artist that's hiring. Sometimes it's your peers.
That's right. So I'm gonna end the tangent there and go back to this business model list. So number 2 again is 10 songs a month at $100 per song. That leads to $1,000. That is reasonable. That's doable.
Oh, yeah.
Again, $100 an hour. At this point, $100 per hour is not as likely. But you can be making more than that if you charge per project and do a quick job on the project. Okay. Number 3, and this is, I think, the ideal. This is where eventually you want to get to. At like a local level, without getting labels involved, without
That's a whole other
more.
conversation.
Like a healthy place to make $1,000 is 5 songs a month. So 1 song a week at $200 per song. For the part-timer, for the person that is trying to build a business in order to be full-time, I think this is a great balance.
Yeah.
This is eventually where you want to get to. $200 per song, 5 songs a month. You only generate, you still do 10 to 20 leads, but it shows that $200 a song it's not steep, it's not expensive, but it still shows that you might know what you're doing a little bit more than the average Joe on Fiverr. It's still an accessible price, and you have the leeway to spend more time on it. 1 song a week is really easy to figure out as far as time budgeting wise. And you're able to not have to work as hard. The only con with this is the opposite of the pro with business model 1, is that you're only at if you do 5 songs a month, you only have 5 clients to impress a month. So the reason why we don't recommend this at the beginning is that although this takes less work for the same amount of money, at the beginning stages of your career, more work for less money is not bad, because you get more people that you get to convince and more people that you get to work with, more people that you win over and build trust with that can then recommend you to other people.
Yeah.
If you can, from the beginning, start charging $200 a song with only 5 songs, people a month, then that is great for your wallet, but it's not ideal for your marketing unless those 5 songs are hyper consistent. And at the end of the day, with like freelancers, it's about consistency. It's not about how much you're charging. It's about how much you can charge consistently.
Yeah. Consider your client base to also be like a quality check of how far you're moving. Like if you're dealing with one local artist every couple days, not every local artist is releasing a song every week, every month, you know? But if you're dealing with management, they might have a roster of artists that need these services, and they're trying to systemize and keep everything flowing efficiently, because the manager doesn't make money unless the artist is making money. And if the artist isn't doing anything, then the manager isn't doing anything, you know? So at the same time, depending on who those clients are specifically, like if you're, like I said, if you're working with a manager, they might be able to bring you 5 different songs because they might have 10 artists that they're working with, and each one of them has to release a minimum of once every 2 months or something. So you might have one mix for each one of the artists every month or so. But once again, that's assuming that you've also started qualifying your clients differently in hopes of growing a little better.
Yeah, and at that same time, you have to constantly be putting out quality work, so they want to keep coming back to you. And you not only does the work have to be quality, but it has to be easy for you to work with you.
Yeah, if you're always late on delivery,
or if you're bad at communication or things of that nature, there's friction to work with you. Then that's another way that you can lose clients as well.
Yeah.
Like, but if it's like, oh, quick turnaround, it's really easy. I just send him the files. He sends it back to me almost immediately.
Yep.
Oh, like that makes them want to write more songs. That makes it easy.
Yeah.
Like that makes the process easier. You make more money that way. All right. Lastly, number 4 is charge one song at $1,000 per song. The reason why this isn't ideal for most people is that it's going to be really, really tough to convert that one person.
Yeah.
To find that one person, to convince them that you're worth it, especially if you don't have a huge portfolio. Now, this only works. One song at $1,000 only works if you have a very large portfolio, you have great branding, you are notorious for doing good work, and for working with high-level people.
Or you are the most confident person and were able to sell yourself that hard on the get-go.
Yeah, and to be honest, even then, like, it's hard to build that trust without proof.
Yeah.
So it's like the difference between 3 or 4, I am honestly going to say, is branding.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally just branding. It's not a unique skill set. It's not you having analog gear. It's branding.
Yeah.
Are you the guy that's notoriously, everybody else works with you? You're so easy to work with. You're reliable. You've worked on every single record that I grew up listening to. You know, you're going to be able to charge more and then still have consistency in your clientele. But at the beginning phase, $1,000 per song is not a price that is easy to attain. In fact, I don't know anybody that's only doing independent work charging that much for mixing. I know very few people, like some people on YouTube have talked about it.
I know a few, but it's
the top 1% for sure.
Yeah, it's like definitely the majority of them are mutual friends of ours.
Yeah. Now, charging $1,000 per song is like the minimum for labels.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, as far as like
it's kind of odd when you invoice for less.
Yeah. So as far as like independent artists goes, independent work goes, like $1,000 per song is like definitely the top 5 to 1%.
Yeah.
Easily. And that you have to earn.
Yeah.
You have to be doing this for years and
You've
years.
got to have plenty of content in the world praising your name versus you praising yourself.
Yeah, I would not. If you are thinking about how to make your first $1,000 a month, this is not the business strategy we recommend.
Yeah.
Yeah, we recommend sticking to $100 to $200 per song. And if you really need to, if you're young and new to the game, you don't have experience, you don't have a portfolio, you don't have any past clients, you yourself feel like an imposter or feel unsure about your own confidence, right? Because you have a certain amount of self-awareness. Then maybe you start doing $25 to $50 per song, and you work your way up from there.
Yeah.
Now, there are people that I talk to that charge that long and that have been doing it for that long, for like 3 years, and they're doing well on Fiverr.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why the heck are you still charging that little? Yeah, well, I mean, for them, it's just a side gig as well.
Oh, that's true.
But you can't make it a primary gig charging that little unless you're doing like 100 songs a month, and that's just difficult to scale. That's just so difficult to scale. The most that I've ever done is 1,019 songs a year, which is more than 3 times the amount of like Serban Ghenea or any other like high producing mixer. It's just impossible to do. Yeah, 100 songs a month, 1,200 songs a year. Yeah, fucking right. Yeah, 4 songs a day. Hell no. That's just not possible. So eventually you're going to have to scale. You're going to have to start charging more. But at the beginning phases, when you know you're not having a lot of clients, when you're just trying to make your first $1,000, you've never made money from this in the past, Business One is a great place to start. I think this is like Brian Hood kind of talked about these 4 levels of business as like, these are your 4 options. You got to pick one. But I'm saying that it's kind of more of like a progression. Like, I think most people should start at a high quantity, low price. They move into a little bit lower quantity, still medium low price. They move into lower quantity, higher price, and then like high price. The elasticity of the business is based on brand. So it's just like you're branded well, you can live on it. Also, if you're getting older and if you have family, if you have kids, you can't spend as much time working on your side hustle or primary hustle. You don't want to spend you're burned out. You don't want to spend as much time working on your primary hustle. That's when you start doing. Or let's say you want to phase it out. This is another scenario. You're a songwriter producer that also mixes. You start mixing. You start making good money from mixing. You make business from mixing. Mixing turns out to be the highest, most profitable part of your business. And we both know people that do this.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? Actually, I don't want to make money from mixing anymore. I want to go back to my roots, which is producing and writing songs.
Yeah.
And one way to get yourself out of doing this while still making some money is to all of a sudden increase your rates to $1,000 per song.
Yep.
So many people are not going to hire you anymore, but you still maintain that PR.
Yep.
It's like, oh, this guy is doing a good job, and that's why he's raising his rates. So so you don't have to say yes to as many projects. You don't have to do as many projects. And you can go back to whatever else that you were doing. You have time now for, but that's only an issue if you don't have time to do what you really want to do anymore. So, just things to think about. A couple things here that I want to talk about is, this is one thing that we always talk about. Lou and I always recommend. We always talk about is imposter syndrome's a real thing.
Yeah.
People feel guilty. They don't believe in themselves much. Number one, that's a good thing. And that's your brain telling you some useful information. If you don't feel like you're good enough, you probably aren't good enough. And the good thing about that is that with time, with practice, you can feel more confident. If you truly put in the time and your brain knew, okay, I am doing this. I am doing this consistently. I've been doing this for a long time. That confidence is going to grow no matter how self-aware you are. Like, it's just a matter of time. And that is something, the worst, I mean, it's not bad, but if you have this delusion, so if you're just dumb and you have low IQ and you just have this delusion that you think you're the GOAT from the beginning and have only been mixing for 2 or 3 years, you're just a dumb motherfucker.
Like if you're still trying to figure out your DAW's basic workflow, you probably shouldn't be charging too much.
Yeah, or no, you should charge much and lose all your clients so I gain them. But number one is, if you do feel some sort of imposter syndrome, the good news is that's normal. That's fine. The good news is it's in your control to get rid of it, to get better. But I do want to make sure one way to avoid imposter syndrome, one way to avoid people leaving 1-star reviews, and honestly just being happy and converting more people to preach your gospel, to recommend you more, is if you charge $35 for a song, you always at minimum double the amount of value that you give them. For example, if you charge $35 a song, you make sure that they get a $70 service. If you charge $100 per song, you make sure that they get a $200 service. Yeah. Not just in their eyes, but in your eyes too. What do you think a $200 service is? And you give them that. If you charge $200 a song, you give them a $400 service in your own eyes. If you give more than you take, not only will you eventually start earning more and having more consistent clients because you win them over, but you're self-conscious, your conscience will be clear, and you will understand that you need need to charge more. You're not going to feel guilty about taking people's money.
Yeah.
So always, always, always over deliver. That is a huge thing. If you are at any point giving people a $25 service and charging them $25 and giving them a $25 service, you are going to lose, both mentally as well as financially in business.
So one thing I've heard in the past is you never want to actually charge what something is worth. You always want to charge a little more. Reason being is that the moment you start taking a step back and things of that nature, you're instantly providing less of a value in the service. If you're charging less and the service is great, right? You over deliver every time. Even if you were to take one step back, it's still an over deliverance by scale. Even if that is the case where you can't over deliver this time, they still got the value of it. But when you pay exactly the value for something, you never really feel that connected to it, which means the person that's charging you for something, the product isn't always the mix. The product is sometimes the interaction and the level of communication and efficiency. That's the product. You know, when you think about like working with management, they don't really care why you were late. You were late. That messed up their workflow. The mix could have been great. It could have been bad, but the lateness was the issue. The product is the service. So when you actually just charge the rate and provide the rated service, even if you had one bad day and you suddenly just can't deliver on that same level that day, you're now giving them subpar service. You should always shoot to actually over deliver in the hopes that even on a bad day, you still delivered even some percentage above par, you know, but you never want to be the baseline because there is no connection to baseline.
What is that phrase that we heard and we started using a few months ago? It's like, if you can't mix better, then deliver the project faster.
Yeah. It's like, holy shit, I asked for it in 5 days. He gave it to me yesterday.
Yeah, wow. You know, that honestly does work.
Yeah.
I want to talk about another concept too, just to kind of to cement it into everybody's mind. Have you ever been to a restaurant or had a service or paid for something by a friend, not like a chain restaurant, but you find some shop in the corner and you're like, oh, I need to go, and it's really cheap and it's really good, and you genuinely feel like you got way more value than you took?
Yeah.
Then you're like, you think that we would say, okay, we got to keep this place a secret.
No.
But what always happens
You tell your
is
friends.
like you feel a demand. Like you feel like I need to go as fucking as much as possible before they
Yeah.
raise their prices, which I know they will because they're way too good for how much they charge.
So
how little they
we
charge.
actually have that right down the street from the studio. It's the Cahuenga General Store. How many times have you heard me preach their sandwiches?
Yeah, so it's like, okay, this is like a local secret. So we need to keep going, and I need to tell everybody, like, before they raise their prices, we need to keep going. Because it's like, for the consumer, it's like them raising their prices is inevitable because you feel like, oh my gosh, this guy's losing money out on it.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid that if you do too much for too little, that people are going to be afraid and not share your business because they want to keep you a secret. That doesn't happen in economics. That just doesn't happen. That's how you spread your word faster. So again, get used to that sort of idea. So always over deliver. Don't charge. Okay, another thing that people tend to do as well is they're like, I wasn't able to do as good of a job. So instead of making you pay $200, I'm going to discount it to $150 because I personally don't feel like I did as good of a job on this one. Or like they discount their own service.
Yeah.
Oh, hell no. This is when it's especially important to make sure you over deliver.
Yeah.
You do not ever discount your prices, especially after the fact, because what you're doing is just admitting defeat, and you're just telling them, I'm actually not as good as you think I am, which is not good for the client. Like you want them to be confident. If you're hiring someone, you want them to be confident. The best thing to do is, if you really truly feel like you didn't deliver it, then do something more. Offer more tuning, offer something else, do more, go out of your way. Like instead of giving them a $50 discount, pay $50 to get them to buy their merch or something like that. Buy their artist merch for $50. So it's still $200, but you spend that $50 that you feel like you don't deserve helping them.
Yeah.
Or
a big
get them a
question
gift.
to always ask is like, what do you feel like was missing, or what do you think would resolve whatever this situation?
Well, this is also like
you know?
mostly like an internal conflict. So I'm talking about like you feel like you discount your own services because you feel
But
bad.
sometimes the people don't know what the issue is, and because of that, they jump to conclusions. So I always say, like, listen, the issue could have possibly not been the mix. It could have possibly not been the service. You know, so at the same time that we're looking to go above and beyond, sometimes identifying what this seemingly issued topic is, we want to be able to correct that in the future. So asking these kind of questions, like, and just having conversations with people, even when things go well, it's like, hey, just out of curiosity, like, what really attracts you to working with me? I know we've done a couple projects together, and I've honestly really enjoyed working together, but what is it specifically that you've really enjoyed?
Yeah, there you go. I mean, asking questionnaires and having people fill out a form on the intake. So we could talk about like websites and doing like a quote request form.
No, I do that,
So-
and I automate mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So briefly, if you do offer a per project service, because you do fluctuate your pricing based on demand and seasons even, you know, in summertime,
Yeah.
I charge a little bit more than winter times because of
Yeah.
demand, or how much, you know, what it is, or if someone has a higher budget. So this is not cheating the system. It can feel like it, but it's not cheating the system. If you don't put on your price, but instead on your quote form, you ask for a budget. And if their budget that they said is higher than what you were planning on charging, you can still make them feel like they're getting a discount by
Yeah.
charging somewhere in between. Be like, hey, you know what? Usually I do charge what you ask, like a little bit more than what you asked for, but I'm actually going to charge you $25 less than what you asked for because I'm still making $50 more
Yeah.
per song. And, you know, like you can make them feel special. You can play with it. And that's good. You know, you want them to feel confident. You're not like playing with them. You're making them feel like they're special. They're getting a deal and they're motivating you. Like, honestly, at the end of the day, when people go into not Maserati, but like Lamborghini, they're not trying to get a discount on the car.
Yeah.
They're trying to get a premium car.
Yeah.
They almost want to pay more or pay the full ticket price.
Yeah.
So it's like, you got to realize too, like, even the consumer understands that if they're paying more, they better get a better product.
I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't even have to be a Lamborghini. When I chose my car, me and Anna went to different dealerships for 6 months. For 6 months, I went and chose a car. Range Rovers were on the list and everything because at the time, I had like really good contracts with like different labels and everything right before the pandemic. Pandemic hit, all those things got reset. But I'm really glad I didn't buy the Range Rover because of that, because that was going to cost me roughly like $1,000 a month, you know. But at the time I was looking around and I really kind of had that thought. I'm like, you know what? I really don't want to be paying this much, but no matter what amount I pay, I want to enjoy the car. It doesn't really matter what I pay. I want the car that I want. So when I went to Honda and bought my car, they're like, oh yeah, we have an all black Civic. I'm like, great. Can I see it? And I look at the inside. I'm like, this interior is tan. This is actually not what I was looking for. But had I never communicated that and that's what I paid for, then that's one issue, right? But as long as people are communicating and everything, you can actually ask what they want. You'd be surprised. Some people, at no matter what price point, they actually have specifics that they're after. As long as you can hit those targets, sometimes those specifics aren't, I need a 720 horsepower engine. Sometimes it's, I just wanted black interior. I just wanted matching black rims. I just want black everything.
And people
It's a
are
very
willing to
simple
pay more.
request.
People
Yeah.
are willing. So if
It
you
didn't
are,
matter what the price of the car was because there was other cars in consideration. Your price actually was cheaper, so I was willing to pay the extra as long as I could get what I was after.
so the metaphor to that would be, for example, if you niche, like if you are known to be the pop punk mixer,
Yeah.
people are, even if you're a lower level of a mixer, but because you specifically niched into a specific genre that everybody knows you for, you can actually charge more. Like that
Yeah.
niche has value in it, just
Yeah.
like the black Civic with the black interior. If people are willing to pay extra for specific trim
Yep.
or specific detail, and that's one way to do it. So yeah, the metaphor for that is why you may want to niche down eventually. I will say that like offering only mixing is also a niche in itself.
Yeah.
And quick thought tangent about picking a niche is that you do not force a niche. The niche will come to you, meaning that like if you don't already know what you want to niche into, like don't try to force and create something and try something out. Like still at the beginning stages, I recommend everybody like expand and do everything
Yep.
and find out what you don't like. By process of elimination, you're going to find what you want to niche down in. So it's like I didn't decide to necessarily be a mixer until I realized I didn't want to track anymore.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So it's like let that niche come to you. Don't overthink it. It's going to happen eventually. That just comes with experience. All right, I think that's it for this episode as far as what we wanted to talk about. We talked about the importance of generating leads. We talked about the importance of not charging less, but to offer more and to always over deliver. We didn't even talk about, like Brian Hood said, this is a cool number, like out of 100 people that go on your website, only 5% of them, only 5 of them will convert into filling out a quote request.
Yeah.
So you just want to generate as much people onto your website, as many impressions as possible.
One of
and
those
that
ways is literally free resources.
Yeah. And honestly speaking, free resource, offering free resources.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's as simple as just posting. And I
Yeah.
know a lot of you motherfuckers out there, they're like, I don't like showing my face. I don't like doing this. I don't like posting. I will say that, like, you don't have to do it, but posting on social media constantly, not doom scrolling or not creeping or lurking, but posting, actively posting, and or even commenting on other people's posts, liking other people's posts, getting your name to show up on other people's profiles or other people's home feeds is one way to stay front of mind, and front of mind is always first to hire.
Yeah.
So, post on social media, be active on there. Don't just lurk. Be active on there. That is actually not a waste of time. That is one way that you can generate income, increase income. And that's more of a long-term strategy game. So don't be afraid to do that. And if you're not going to do that, you got to do other ways. You got to go out to the local club more often, whatever it takes. And there's so many. We need to, like, what ways to network is an episode on its own, like different ideas. And ways that I've increased clients is so different from the way that you've increased clients and what the next person is going to do.
I'll give a fun tip to anybody that's just getting started. If you have the time for a part-time job, go get a part-time job at a music shop. Musicians,
that's one way that you
producers,
did it,
and artists literally go there every day, and your job is to talk to them. So if you have social anxiety, guess what? That's part of your training.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great way to get over it.
Yeah.
What is it? Cognitive therapy or whatever it is. Anyway, so that's it for this episode. Hopefully we hope. I mean, this podcast, it's not just a mixing podcast. The main goal of this, the elevator pitch of this podcast is straight up, we help mixers learn the craft of mixing in order to build their business. So we hope that this episode kind of gave you some insight, gave you some food for thought, got you, munching around on some ideas. And again, at the end of the day, use the creativity that you have, use your knowledge that you have to figure out what works for you. This is just guidelines. Lou and I, both who are professionals, we both figured out how to build clients in completely different ways that don't relate to each other at all, nor will it ever relate to the next person. Everybody does their own thing. So at the end of the day, I think the only thing that we can recommend is to throw spaghetti on the wall, see what sticks, right?
Hopefully the sauce.
Yeah, anyway. So on that note, we wish you the best. Happy mixing, my friends, and stay saucy.
Boom.
Was that your mom calling?
It is. It is my mom.
I wonder if we can pull out. Hold on. Maybe, do you want to do that episode about ways of networking? I just don't feel qualified for that because I feel like I actually am not didn't have as many ideas. We can ask ChatGPT. Do another ChatGPT episode. You go ahead. You can answer calls. Yeah.
Mom, ¿es una emergencia? ¿Qué pasó? Sure, yeah, yo voy. Yeah, como a qué hora? Around 7? Okay, yeah, está bien. Sí. Okay, bye. That was not an emergency by any means. That was hilarious.
Ooh.
So
Wow.
I'm like, is it an emergency? She's like, yes. So I was like, okay, what? She's like, it's your aunt's birthday today, and she wants to know if you're gonna come for dinner. How the fuck is that an emergency? Did that really warrant 3 calls? I even texted her like, I'm live. Is this an emergency? Gotta love mamas. That's the only response I have.
No
to
comment. No comment. All right, let's do the networking episode. Do you want to do that? Since we're
Oh,
talking
yeah.
about
That. Man, networking is the only reason I make money.
Okay, let me make 2 new tracks. Howdy, everybody.
Hi.
Sorry, we don't really respond to chats unless it has anything to do with our episode
Oh yeah,
while we're
Dutch Beats.
recording.
Congrats.
Yeah, so now we will reply to questions, comments, and everything else that we see and notice. What's good, Linhart? Sesh Beats, what up, y'all? I'd love to find mixing mastering services for $35 per song. Fiverr is great. I actually know there was a video that we saw of people comparing.
Oh yeah, I think the cheapest one was like $100.
And it was like $75 for a mix.
Yeah,
So
it
it's
was
like,
75.
There's
yeah,
this
yeah.
YouTuber that like hired 4 different mixers at different price points.
Which is quite the financial risk in the context of creating content.
What a great idea, though, because
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like chain, so it's not like this chain does a better job. It's more like this individual does good, this individual. So
Yeah.
it's more like the idea of what people think price per quality
Yeah.
is, and it like breaks down the barrier. So anyway, he did a mix. The video was like a $75 per mix, and another one was like $150 per mix. Another one was like $400 per mix. Another one $1,000 per mix. And another one $1,500 per mix. And it was like the $500 to $700 per mix one that was easily the worst mix.
Yeah. Yeah. And even then, the most expensive one was second best.
No, I think that one was the best. I don't remember.
No,
I
it
remember like
wasn't.
the
It was-
cheapest one being second or third best.
No, it was the $300 to $400 one.
Oh, that was the best.
That was the best one.
And then like the second best was the top priced
Yeah.
one, and then third best was the cheapest one.
Yeah, and
something
then
like that.
The one that was like $500 was like the worst one.
easily the
Like,
worst one.
Completely left field mix.
The $75 mix was better than the $500 mix.
But you know, I did have one reasoning for why that can be. Because I think he mentioned he hired them on Sound Better, right?
Yeah.
So I know one thing about Sound Better, which is that a lot of people will pay for the premium access, right? Because one, you have to be qualified, and then the food about will be banging. It is an emergency.
I think it's an emergency. Yeah.
I mean, I hope so, because she did mention that they are ordering the food. So, we'll see. But I used to know a guy that, in fact, funny enough, the guy actually used to work out of Studio B for years. He was on Sound Better, and one of our mutual friends was like, "Yeah, I need more work mixing," and he's like, "Hey, how about you mix the clients for me on Sound Better?" And so they were splitting the profit. Like, he would basically let him use his premium account, but he couldn't say who mixed it. Like, it was basically ghost mixing every record. So there could have been a case where it's like, oh, is this one of those ghost mix accounts where like maybe the guy does actually do good, but he's having his assistant do all the online work?
Again, like I think that's something that I'm not terribly mad about.
Yeah. He chose what he chose to charge, and I gotta say, it was really surprising how left field that mix was. Like, it was really bright and thin and like nothing like the reference.
All right. And yeah, and then capitalism will take over, and if he continues to make shitty product,
Then it just goes
then
away.
eventually it's gonna do bad. All right. Yeah, you can't burn people indefinitely.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about capitalism, is that it also respects the consumer. It's open to privatized revolutions.
I
People
like
get
that,
pissed
yeah.
off. People start unions. People do strikes.
Yeah.
And that's part of capitalism.
Yo, by the way, did you get Doom Scrolling by Indistractable?
Now, doom scrolling is a pretty common thing.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. I only heard it in Indistractable.
This book?
Yeah.
Did you finish? Did you read it?
I'm like 75% of the way.
Oh, when did you get it?
Audible.
No, when did you get it? You
Oh,
didn't answer
like-
yet.
I want to say like a week ago.
Oh, okay, so you probably saw me post about it or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah, I got interested in it. Yeah, I was like, Indistractable. That sounds like something I need to read.
Yeah.
Or in my case, listen to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. I got anyway. All right, let's get into this one. This is interesting. We'll see how this one goes. I have a feeling it's not going to go as well as I think, but things that I think that about usually go way better than I think. So let's try it.
Just have some confidence, man.
Believe me, it's not a confidence issue.
Performance anxiety.
Oh, nickname?
Oh, shit.
I'm not going to do lavalier.
No. There's Loadbox Lou. That's a good one.
Okay, let's see.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome back to the Mixing Music Podcast. I'm your host DK, and with me, as always, is my lovely co-host Loadbox Lou.
Load me up, daddy.
Okay, can you actually read the prompt that you fed ChatGPT?
Oh yeah, let's do this.
There's a prompt.
So it's kind of funny because it's kind of like a two-part prompt, but basically, studio audio gear related to the studio audio related gear that starts with the letter L that can be followed up with the name Lou in the likeness of Limiter Lou. It said, "How about lavalier Lou for a microphone commonly used in studio recordings?" I'm like, give me a list of 20. And just to shoot them off.
Hold on, don't share them, but he did
Yeah.
ChatGPT did
Give
mention
me
20, 40. Oh, you look like you got like
I got
60.
60 total.
Nice. So we're going to be using
Yeah.
ChatGPT names. Anyway, welcome back to the Mixing Music Podcast. This is a follow-up episode to our last episode. If we did it in order, then the last episode was how to make your first $1,000 in a month. This episode, we talked a little bit at the end of that last episode about networking and how you can meet more people, how you can generate more leads. So this episode is about lead generation and different ideas. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, preface to this is that we do not, okay, there is not going to be one way to generate leads that works for you indefinitely. It's different from everybody. So this episode, I want you to think it's like more of like a think tank. Like we're helping you come up with your own ideas.
Yeah.
What resources you have, what things that you have accessible to you, what kinds of people that you want to work with. General idea that we want to start off with, and I'm going to use in this metaphor, this example, I'm going to talk about dating. Okay, this is going to be fun.
Okay.
All right. What do you think, and this is not necessarily for you, maybe a little bit of your own taste here, Lou. I know we're both married here, but like for the average man, let's describe the average woman that you'd want to.
Confident.
Okay, so confident for me, intelligent is important, smart is important. Maybe easy to talk to. Nurturing. Oh, great. Is creative. That's important for me.
Let's see. Into trying new things.
Self-disciplined.
Yep.
Very disciplined. Again, communicative. I think I said that.
Honest.
Oh, that's
Even
a good
when
one.
tough.
Ooh, okay. So that's enough there. I'm going to stop us there. Here's the thing. This is where marketing comes into play. If I want to find a woman like that, statistically, where should I go and where should I make the effort to flirt with this, to find this type of woman?
Tinder. No, I'm just kidding.
I guess the first question is it going to be the club? Am I statistically likely to find someone who is honest, caring, willing to try new things? Maybe.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Maybe they're there on that one night they were trying something new.
Maybe. You never know. Like, okay. So, but I mean, like some of the more basic ones, nurturing, caring, honest, fun to talk to, intelligent, self-disciplined. Is that where you're going to find the woman that you're looking for, statistically
Not
speaking,
really.
from a level of statistics?
Not really.
How about a better idea? A bookstore.
Oh.
A library.
Or the park.
A coffee shop. The park.
Yeah.
Maybe if they're walking their dog, they're caring in some way.
Yep.
I mean, we're just talking about statistics, right?
Yeah.
People don't think about this stuff. All these fucking ignorant men, they're like, I keep finding bitches. I can't find good women.
Yeah.
They keep cheating on me. That's because you keep picking girls up at the club. Like, statistically, that's not the place to find the right, in other words, client in a woman. Whatever. That really
Are
makes...
you a gigolo now?
Yeah, client makes it that. I mean, in the metaphor, right? The client, right?
Yeah.
So it's like... So one thing that we're going to make clear is that everybody, if you're thinking about this, if you come to this episode of how to find more clients, how to network and generate leads, the first thing that you need to think about is who is your ideal client. You need to, on paper, there you can Google search avatar.
Yep.
So like how to make an avatar. An avatar is a business term that we use in order to specifically describe our ideal client. I don't remember the exact when we did it with Infinite Studios.
I remember many details.
But
of it.
I remember many of the details too. Probably in their mid 30s to 40s, like early 30s to late 40s.
Yeah, I think the lowest age group we put was 27-35.
Yeah, probably like a college educated, manages artists,
Prefers a clean space.
yeah, has kids, is a family man, doesn't smoke, is sober. Again, we're trying to do like ideal, so like we're making up things.
Yeah.
And like,
and there's always going to be variables in between when you actually meet people. Nobody's the same person.
yeah, again, we're just doing ideal for one. So like they're probably college educated, they're probably sober, they probably like to read books, they
Yep.
probably are a coffee person rather than a drinking person.
Yep.
They probably have family that they care about, so thus they have boundaries, you know, they want they're
They're not trying to be out all night.
yeah, they're very clean in nature. They're on time to sessions. So the reason why that's important is because if you don't know what you fucking want, then this is going to make finding leads, generating leads, networking so much more difficult. So the first step in order to proper network, to properly generate leads, to best build your business is to, number one, articulate specifically who your ideal customer is.
Yeah.
Who is it that you want to talk to? And yes, there's a lot of people at the club,
Yep.
but the club is not where you want to go for an ideal long-term client, like a long-term partner that you want to eventually want to marry.
Yeah.
It's just not where you want to go. And if you are complaining, saying that I keep getting these trifling women that don't want to settle down, it's because you're looking in the wrong place. Like it's a game of statistics.
It's also like, think about it, like maturity is both not just a dating example, but it's also a client example. Maturity in like the sense of like, if all your clients are 20 years old, they probably all act like 20-year-olds.
Yeah, so this is literally why it's the perfect metaphor. There's no metaphor that could ever be better than this metaphor that I just came up with. Exactly. This is peak metaphor, right? Anyway, so this is something that you need to think about. And this is part of the reason why it's going to be different for everybody and why it should be different for everybody. Ideal client for Lou, I mean, especially now you're focusing a lot more on mastering, is different from me, who's like a pop mixing guy. You may eventually, like, I don't know, like I don't know what you're into recently, but you like R&B.
No, I love R&B.
You like banda stuff?
Yeah, I grew up listening to just about every genre, mainly like rock and stuff, which always makes me laugh.
But as far as like work goes,
my main breadwinner is actually like pop R&B.
There you go. And for me, it's like recently, it's like pop rock, pop EDM, pop in general, just pop singing, just straight pop, no subgenre
Singing.
pop. Anyway, just singers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so and then again, that niche is I'm a mixer. So like clients that are ideal for me, people that are my favorite client is usually has a manager. There's usually no negotiating on pricing. They just agree to it. They're quick with revision requests. They're quick with turnaround. They're not only am I quick with turnarounds, but they're quick with their turnarounds as well. They respect my boundaries. No weekends, no late nights. They're easy to work with. They're talking. I actually like their music, right? So how do I find that ideal clientele?
I guess a good starting point would be social media. If you got to like their music and you got to like their persona, part of their marketing ties into that. Who do they want people to perceive them as?
Yeah, I meant to make that question more rhetorical, but I'm glad that you answered it. But the point is, like,
I mean, if your branding is throwing money everywhere, but then you're also the type of person to really try to renegotiate a price because it's too expensive, but you just bought $3,000 shoes, which don't have any return on investment. maybe doesn't align with your goal.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Wait a second. Me saying that $3,000 shoes don't have a return on investment, saying like that all your Pokemon cards are a waste of money.
No, they low-key are at the same time as the shoes are. They only make you money when you sell them, but if you're going to wear them and break them down, they have no return on investment.
Got it. Yeah, if you do wear them, that's true.
Yeah, if you wear them, they instantly lose value. It's like a Ferrari. You don't buy a Ferrari from the dealership to flip it. You buy a used one and flip it.
So that being said, I'm proud to say that I am coming up on 4 years of haven't bought a pair of sneakers.
Hell yeah. But all your sneakers look much cleaner than mine.
Yeah, and I still, well, I mean, I buy like running shoes and basketball shoes because they were worn out. Anyway, But the point is, okay, so if that is the case, we also need to take it back a step further. If I want to find someone that works with management, an artist that has a manager, so I communicate, mostly delegate work or receive work through managers, then what I need to do is be a type of service that is appropriate for managers.
Yeah.
Meaning what managers want is, I don't want to have to follow up with you all the time. Yeah. I want you to send the files and you don't ask any questions and you're just fucking easy to work with. Yep. Literally, managers are willing to take less of a percent if you are just easy to work with. Literally, my manager, he's like, DK, you're so easy to work with. I'm actually going to take less of a percent. Nice. Literally, that was his argument. And I said, okay, cool. I wasn't going to argue. I was going to offer to give him more, but he was like, you know what? Let's keep this going. This is so easy.
Oh, yeah.
It's so nice. Anyway, okay, so let's talk about this. The average listener right now, you're trying to make, let's go back to the last episode. So you're trying to make your first $1,000. So you're at like a beginner, intermediate stage, maybe low intermediate, beginner stage, right? It doesn't matter. And you're wanting to go full time with music. Where are you going to generate leads? Well, first off, if you don't have a niche yet, which is pretty common, like you haven't decided, like you're doing mixing and mastering and you're doing producing and you're tracking all in your home space or commercial space. And you do all genres except for, and then you have a few that you don't do, right? So let's run with that. Typically, your ideal client is going to be someone local, not on the internet. I don't know. I like working with people that I can meet. There's less revision requests. There's more respect because they know you personally. They perform often locally. They're serious about their art, right? So they release music constantly.
Yeah.
Where am I going to find... And there's going to be a lot more specific things that's going to be dependent on your location, depending on your situation. But where am I going to find someone like that, Lou? Someone who releases music. Let's just stick with the easy ones. Releases music consistently, plays shows often, is serious about their craft. And
I would firstly just say start going to events. Actually go see them perform.
And I would be even more specific. What about you go if you live near a university, go to your local university and go to open mics around the clubs around the university, to the coffee shops around the university, to go to the events around the university. These are going to be usually young, hungry artists. They may not have a big budget, but if it's perfect because if they can get a very cheap mix out of you, and you feel like you can over-deliver for them, that's a great situation to be. And then people that are young, honestly, if they stick to it, you're developing...
a long-term client.
Yeah, that's true. And the cool thing, that's one thing that we should talk about too, is like 90% of my clients are people that are my peers that have also elevated their careers like I have. The 10% of them are like people that are significantly above me that were given to me, or I had a chance to win over, or someone got fired or something like that.
Yeah.
But most of my clients, especially the ones that pay well, are people that started with me at a young age at the same level, and we both increased our work.
I would actually say that's actually the best way to actually grow. I know it's a long-term thing.
I think it's the inevitable thing.
It's a hard one to see at first. And I've always told people this, and I think I've repeated this notion to you. Like, I can trace back all of my major successes back to like even when I got my first studio when I was 20. You know, like I can tie it all back person to person to person. I know every little connection that ever went through, how we met, how we worked together, and what made the difference. But it's only something that you can tie back after so much time later. It's not something that you can see right away where it's like, well, they're going to go and do this in the future. No, like the most recent major project I did was the Zeus project, right? The guy that got me connected there was working with the management company.
By the way, preface, Zeus is a
TV
audio
network.
TD. What is it?
It's a TV network.
TV network company that built a group of studios, and Lou built out these studios. So
Yeah.
Zeus is the name of the company that owns these studios.
Yeah. And so it's kind of funny because, like, even that guy, we never actually exchanged funds. He just knew all the work that I did surrounding the people that he knows. And because of that, I was top of mind even years later, because I was always known as the guy that's willing to help. Even if it's not my personal job or anything, I just wanted to make sure people were good.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So again, that's something. The only problem with this is that these generalized ideas that you should be thinking about is significantly more important than the actual specific practical advice that we're about to give you.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a generalized understanding of who your target demographic is, who your ideal avatar is, your ideal client is, then there's no point of networking. And now, eventually, you're going to use these ideas and use that knowledge, your avatar, your ideal client, your boundaries. You're going to use that knowledge to then build on and find specific ways that work for you. Anyway, what I recommend anybody to do right now is, if you are listening to the podcast, I recommend that you go pull up your browser or download the app. ChatGPT now has an app. It's free. You can sign in with your Google account. It's totally free. ChatGPT 3.5 is totally free. 4.0 you pay for, but you don't need it. Okay? And I want you to type in this. What are some ideas for networking and meeting potential clients as an audio engineer, or as a mix engineer, or as a mastering engineer, or as a live, whatever your thing is? Just start there, and here's what ChatGPT spit out with. Number 1, attend industry events. Conferences, trade shows, and seminars related to music, audio engineering, and the entertainment industry are excellent places to meet potential clients. Look for events in your area of travel to major industry hubs. The only thing that I'm going to qualify with this is that going to audio engineering events is not as useful, because audio engineers are not your clients.
Unless you're a mastering engineer.
Unless you are a mastering engineer. There you go.
Yeah. I did a poll of, like, who hires the mastering engineer, artist or the engineers. And I put it in the made 2 polls, one for the artist answer, one for engineers to answer. Both sides answered that the engineers, which was kind of a great.
So so unless you're a mastering engineer, the only thing, and again, this is something that I admit to all the time on the podcast, is that I started this podcast for fun, but if I was starting this podcast as a business in order to monetize my audience, then I would have done how to songwrite, how to produce, how to record, because those are the type of, so like I made the fatal flaw of making content for my peers. Again, if I'm trying to monetize my audience, that was the worst business move possible.
Depends on your approach to what the goal is.
I don't really sell courses. Eventually I may. If I start selling a plugin, then this would have been good, but I still haven't finished building my plugins yet. That's on a little bit of a hold till later in the year. I don't make courses. So it's like, unless that's my product, but I'm a mix engineer. I take on clients. If you're listening to this podcast, you're trying to mix for yourself. It's not as good anyway. So it's something to think about. If you know who your ideal client is, you probably won't go to an audio engineering event. Number 2 is join professional organizations. Whoa. Consider joining organizations like Audio Engineering Society, AES, or local music industry associations. These organizations often host events and provide networking opportunities.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine joined their local city council as like the arts guy or something like that. And he said that he gets clients from that. Like, he hosts an open mic or some sort of art show once a month for the city. And every once in a while, he gets clients from that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Online communities. This is big. Participate in online forums, social media groups, and platforms like LinkedIn. What the fuck? To connect with fellow audio professionals and potential clients. Again, this is actually not good. If you're looking for potential clients as an audio engineer, you don't necessarily want to connect with other audio professionals. Okay, so if your ideal client is an artist who is posting on social media, is actively releasing music and promoting stuff all the time, then whether you like it or not, one main place to network is on Instagram and TikTok. I don't give a shit how much you hate it. Your potential clients are probably there.
I'm gonna give a little pushback to the previous notion. I think it's a really good idea to network with your peers. Reason being is that some people have a little more work on their table than they can handle or need assistance with it. If you're starting out, then if you wanted to network with bigger names, get yourself into a bigger room as an assistant would be one way. And you can actually meet their management, understand how the management works, what they're looking for, and things of that nature, and know how to grow towards something. But, you know, we think about like our friends like Shock and Jeff and everybody where they're doing well on their own, but they also have a sense of like, yo, they were working for their peers.
Yeah, so it's going to be totally dependent.
Yeah.
I would say very little of my work it comes from peers. And most of it, like, no, mix engineers are not hiring me. It's usually the mix engineer talks, they know me or something like that.
Hey, I can't take it on, but I got a friend.
Not even that. I have it's more like, hey, I'm not your genre. I don't want to do this. Can you do this? Or, and the more that I charge, it's less and less so. Because it used to be, hey, there's this one audio engineer in my local area that charges more, that used to charge more than me. And he's like, hey, this guy he doesn't have as much of a budget. Can you just take him on? I just don't want to take him on right now. I don't have the time. So like, yeah, overflow in that sense. But again, like less than 5% of my income for me specifically. It's different for everybody, but that's a good point to make. In general, the general business idea is don't market to your peers. But for Lou and maybe for you, it has worked. I will say in general, that is a generalized idea. Okay, online communities is huge. I don't know why it brought up LinkedIn. Holy cow, ChatGPT sucks. 4, collaborate with musicians and bands. Partner with local musicians and bands to record, mix, master their music. No shit, Sherlock. Okay. Number 5, offer workshops and classes. That is something that we both do.
Yeah.
That's a really great way to bring people in. It not only does it build trust by showcasing that you know what the fuck you're doing, but you get to meet people that are openly potentially interested in whatever service you provide.
Yeah.
Okay, studio open houses. We also do that.
Yeah.
That's a great way for as far as like the income revenue, I don't do that for my mixing, but for the studio where our income is based off of rental of the studio, showing the space is a great way to show people that we have a good space.
Oh, yeah.
Open houses. Great. Number 7, volunteering for local events. Volunteer to provide sound engineering service for local concerts, festivals, and community events. This can help you get the name out there and establish connections. I've done this a bunch of times. I'll tell you about it in a second. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, though. In its perception of your role in your industry. If you are doing a ton of live sound and everybody that you met doing live sound also probably thinks you have tinnitus. I'm just saying, like, if you go and volunteer at this event and you're the one person not wearing hearing protection, you're probably less likely to be considered by somebody who knows you should be protecting your ears if you're going to work in audio.
Okay, I have a serious question.
Yeah.
Serious question, Lou. And I this may be like a soft, vulnerable spot, but I have to ask.
Sure.
As someone that does do live sound, do you feel like there's a lack of respect, or there is a line between someone that is a purebred studio rat and like someone that is hybrid or does live sound? Like, like what you just described, is that a real thing?
So there is a line. And this is kind of what I've seen it as.
Like, do you really feel like you doing live sound on the side affects your income as an
I would say it in the sense of the context of this episode, which is networking, right? If everybody you met there is like, oh, you do live sound. Oh, you also own a studio. Okay. Which one of the two do you do better? Which one of the two? Because I've only seen you in this light. So I know you're charging X amount per day to mix shows, and I know groups hire you to come and do that, but live sound technology is, though, inherently the same as studio technology, but it's very, very different in its workflow, mentality, and the approach. How you handle one event for 1,000 people versus how you mix a song is 2 completely different conversations, because you're not dealing with stage bleed. You're not dealing with monitor mixes that can't go into the audience sound. There's so many things that go into it that those who are looking for a mixing engineer are probably looking for somebody who works in a quiet environment on a regular basis that protects their hearing all the time. And because of that, live sound can give the perception of, oh, this person might not take care of their ears so much. You know, you hear about all the veteran live sound engineers that are deaf because hearing protection wasn't a thing in the 80s for whatever reason. But anytime anybody sees me in headphones, they're always like, dude, do you not just listen to the speakers? I'm like, I only need to hear it for like 5 minutes just to know that my mix was right. But finding clients as a live sound engineer can be more damaging for your long term if you're trying to niche into mixing. You're not going to find them in the live sound events.
Also, yeah, like I was thinking too, it's like the people who hire you at Live Sound is more like venue owners.
Yep.
And so like
they're not managers for the artist's recording career. They're there for their live and performing careers.
Yeah, you don't typically talk to the person that would hire you for mixing. So it doesn't really cross over.
Now, where it does cross over is when you get to network with the musicians themselves who are locals. So for instance,
Okay, so specifically who are locals?
Yes. Reason being is this. There are touring musicians and there are local musicians. Now, the ones that left on tour are obviously getting their tour rates, but you're never going to see them again outside of one show. So there's no point in promoting your recording or mixing services to them unless you can do it remotely. Once again, the mixing or mastering. But when it comes to the musicians, they're like, oh, yeah, I live in Glendale, right? We'll just say in the area of the venue. And I actually do a lot of like drum session work. And that's how I got connected to this gig. It's like, oh, that's crazy. I actually mainly do studio mastering and all that kind of stuff. I actually own a studio with multiple rooms. And I actually specialize in like recording live drums. That's actually my favorite thing to record instrument wise. Like that's the real truth of mine. So connecting with the drummers and saying like, hey, if you'd ever like to come by and check it out and like let me know what you think, like I'd love to get your opinion. And you can really impress them with your space and really showcase the part outside of the venue. But to get to that conversation, you also had to have a smooth event where everybody's happy. You got their monitors right. Everything was so easy to work with that they're like, yo, who is this guy? So there is an opportunity to network, but it's not as fluent as other methods. Like live sound, unfortunately, is not going to get you more clients in the studio right away. It can over time, but what it is going to do is get you to be better and think on your feet faster, which is going to make you a better studio engineer.
Yeah, that crossover is good. But as far as like, thank you, Lou. I was just curious about that. That was an actual genuine curiosity.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing that I did do that I want to talk about is when I was in a band, right? And so my ideal client, I wanted to play shows. My ideal client at the time was other bands that would ask us to open for them, would be event
promoters,
event makers, people that made the events and hosted the events. So one way that I knew to get into their hearts and to negotiate my band playing, which was the goal, is that I bought a PA system and bought some sound. And so I would leverage that and be like, hey, we're doing this show out in the on the university field. We need a PA system. It's like, hey, well, I'll provide this PA system for free if you let us open for you.
Yeah.
Or like, so I was able to leverage my skill and equipment in order to get more gigs. Or like, hey, this apartment complex is doing like a big backyard bash for this university here. DK, can you help do the sound? Yeah, can you let us play? And there was oftentimes that it would be like a dance party and there was a huge audience because it's not like local bands. It's this proper dance party. And we would open or like somehow play something in the middle. So we had a bigger audience than normal because we leveraged the speaker. Anyway, that's another thing. Another way that I've volunteered for local events that got me clients as well as like respect and trust is that I would often give away free studio hours or free mixes or whatever in exchange to sponsor a battle of the bands. So I would go to all of the local battle of the bands and I would ask if I could sponsor them, and I would be there all week or all weekend and judge each person, give them good feedback, make sure they know who I am, and the winners would get the prize. And I would do that. Sometimes they didn't even used it, but which was awesome because then I just got to sponsor it and got all that PR for free. But anyway, that was another way that you can volunteer for local events. Number 8 is collaborate with content creators. This is huge. This is one of the ways that we make money from the studio specifically, not us as engineers as well with the podcast, for example. But this is big for the studio. Even this last week, we have one video that we collaborated with a buddy of mine who is not a music YouTube channel. He does general tech and learning type channel. And he came in and talked about how is it worth going to a big studio in LA? And he did a video about us. It's like if you type in LA recording studios, we're the #1 hit because of it. And we get a lot of paying clients because of that.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal. Attend music showcases.
I feel like that's going to Facebook events.
Yeah, sure. Create an online presence. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Showcasing your portfolio service and client testimonials. Use social media platforms to showcase your work. It's something simple like having a demo reel, like show.
I'm not gonna lie, I got to get better at updating mine.
Yeah, or like even if you take the time, if you ask permission and do like before and afters.
Yeah.
As like shorts on Instagram or put it on YouTube and put that on your like YouTube hyperlink on your website.
Yeah.
Like before and after examples. Offer free consultations. I know a lot of people that do this. Hey, a couple ways to do this as a mix engineer is you offer a free, what is it called? If you have FilePass, which is one of our sponsors, mixingmusicpodcast.com/FilePass, you can block downloads unless they pay for it.
Yeah.
So you can do paywalls. So you can be like, hey, I'm willing to do a free mix and you only have to pay for it if you like it.
Yeah.
If you want to use it, then that's the only time. But you get to hear my offering for free. And if you got a lot of time on your hands, or if you got the time budget too, that's a great way.
Or if there's a specific client that you feel is out of your league, but you'd like to shoot your shot.
There you go.
It's no different than, once again, you're trying to find this girl. You feel you might not be up to par for it. Shoot your shot. You know, worst thing is you hear the word no.
No, the worst thing is, ew, you gross son of a bitch. Why are you even talking to me? Get your fat ass out of here. That's
actually
the worst
that would make my emotions drop a little bit.
Yeah, that's
I'd be
the
like,
worst thing.
I'm gonna go to Chipotle.
That's like a classic meme. What's the worst thing that they can say? No, and then I was like, ew, you gross bitch.
It's like,
Anyway, but that's a really great thing. As a mastering engineer, it's pretty common to do the same thing where it's like you offer one free song mastering. Oftentimes they leave like some sort of like audio watermark by saying like mastered by, blah, blah, and they leave that and it's gross and you don't get the clean audio without paying for it. Things like that. Just make sure that you properly communicate that. I don't recommend doing things for free, but I would recommend giving them the option to hear your work for free and they only have to use it.
So what I've done is I'll master the chorus and it'll be the final chorus because that's where all the energy and everything's going. I'll do a fade in, fade out kind of thing at the top of the chorus.
That's a great idea.
And end of the chorus, and it's simple. And then in that same link, there's a zip file to the master.
There you go. So it's you get a free consultation.
Yep.
And you offer, again, I don't recommend doing free work as much as like offer to showcase your work for free and then they only have to pay if they like what you do.
Yeah.
That's a great way of doing it. Sometimes they're not going to pay for it and they don't like what you do, but that's a good learning experience. Yeah. 12, attend gear gem demonstrations. Again, that's more, if you're a mastering engineer, that's more important. But again, these are ideas based off of like, if you're a mixer, who is your client? Usually managers, usually the artists themselves. They're not going to gear demonstrations.
So
it's not that you're not going to find clients there, but it's a statistics game.
There.
I haven't, not half as much as I've posted on like Instagram, but I've found
I think we would both describe these clients as red flag clients though.
Fair.
Where it's like, oh, I'm just out here looking at like the latest technology, the best vocal chains, this and that, and it's like, oh, great, yeah, I actually, work with this company. I actually use their mics, this and that. It's like, oh, cool. Just out of curiosity, how much do you charge? This and that. They might come to the studio, but then once something new, flashy else comes out, they're on that train. So they're more train riding than they are, clients.
There you go. Yeah. It's true. And number 13, I'm going to say this is a bad one again. The ChatGPT did not listen to our advice about thinking about who your audience is. It's still good, but build a relationship with music studios. I guess that's good. I don't know how you're going to get mixing clients from that. I didn't specifically say mix engineer. I said audio engineer.
Yeah.
So like if you're trying to get hired by the studio, that's a good thing. Anyway, number 14, leveraging your alumni network or going. I think the only reason why going to music school is good, like 90% of the value of a music school is your peers.
I'll be honest. I think I only talked to one person out of like the 70 that were in my class.
Really?
Yeah.
No, dude, I like still to this day.
No.
30 to 50% of my clients is like past peers or alumni or things like that.
I think my class was
built from that.
Yeah, I think my class was just unfortunately like we were in a very transitional period of the school property where we were leaving one property, entering a new one, and because of that, there was like a lot of drop-offs. There was a lot of like miscommunication, sour taste towards the school. So like there was really no reason to connect outside of like if you really like somebody or not. And at the time, I was working full time. I was going to school. I owned a studio and this and that. So I also didn't really have a lot of time to just like hang out.
Yeah. So, I mean, even if you didn't have time to hang out, like for me, it's not just the people that are my peers, my in Japanese we say doki, my same classmates. It was the fact that I went to the school, I hang out with other people that went to that school, or the person that offers a different service recommended me to someone. They trusted me because we went to the same school and they saw my work ethic as a student.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not direct student, I'm making money from my classmates. That's a great networking basis.
Yeah,
and a
we
base
also get like
level
interns from the school too.
Oh yeah, we get.
So
interns
funny
from school,
enough, there's also generational differences, but there's going to be like, hey, you know what? We all went to the same school. We all can talk about like the class, how things have changed, this and that. So there's still like something to connect on.
Yeah, and number 15, this is really good, is just cold outreach. And I'm going to specify with this is if you want to work with someone, if you have an ideal client and they're, you know, just DM them, just email them. Don't be pushy, don't brown nose. But at the very least, just like say hi. And I mean, they're going to say no. The worst they can say is to call you a little gross bitch. But I mean, like at the very least,
Over
like,
Instagram.
It's worth asking. It's worth asking. And if you are doing a good job, if you do have good presence, if you look reliable, then honestly, I have had many clients just from asking.
Yeah.
It's really insane. And some of those are still lifelong clients.
Yeah. To be honest, like I think the more you actually enjoy who you work with, ultimately will generate the return business, because it really does, I guess, show in your version of how you communicate with people. Everybody communicates differently. Some people are more the silent type, but they just have their little tells when like they like somebody. You know, and some people are very vocal, and some people are very like, you know, hand on the shoulder, physical kind of thing. But the more you actually like the people you're working with, the better off you're going to be in the long run. Yeah.
I will say though, I block anyone and everyone that promotes without starting a conversation. They're like, hey, watch this video. Hey, like my pre-save my work. And they didn't even say hi. Hell no. I fucking hate you. I will never, ever like your music.
Anytime I get those emails, I'm like, hi, the next time you guys email me, like, please at least even have any kind of remote sense of what my name is.
Yeah, I restrict you and never see your messages. In fact, one of these episodes, I should call people out by their names because they probably still listen to the podcast. And I should call them out by name, be like, you suck.
Suddenly you see the comments like, no.
You are a bad human being. Anyway, but anyway, at the same time, like, just be friendly. Just try to make friends. Just say that you're interested. Again, compliment them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I love the music video that you did out. Who did it? Who worked on it? They'll always, most people would love to talk about themselves and how they were able to make this project that they're really proud of.
Yeah.
You know, it's a great way to get interested. And again, make it easy on yourself and for them by don't even promoting your own work. They're going to find out. If you have a good brand, a good portfolio, and it's pretty obvious if you go to your channel, and they will tell you if they're looking for an engineer. Yeah. Hey man, I saw that you're an engineer. Can I hire, what are your rates? They will, if they are someone that is going to hire you, they will ask themselves, they'll qualify themselves. So again, just reach out and be friendly. Don't try to sell.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's a great end to this episode. This is a little bit shorter episode. We thank you so much for listening. If you are interested in listening to more episodes of the podcast, and specifically about mixing and mastering, producing, tips and tricks and takeaways and homework, go to mixingmusicpodcast.com/exclusive, where James, Braden, and I will break down different audio clips from various award-winning engineers or local engineers, and we talk about why it's a good idea, why it's a bad idea. Anyway, for $4 a month or $40 a year, you get access to twice as many episodes. So there it is. Go to, one more time, that's mixingmusicpodcast.com/exclusive. Also, if you are a longtime listener of the podcast and really love what we do and want to support the podcast, go to your favorite platform, whether you use Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Please just leave 5-star rating. And if you are able to, Spotify doesn't allow this, but if you're on Apple or Google, just leave one sentence. Hey guys, love the show. It's better for the algorithm if you leave a remark than to just leave 5 stars. So if you do that for us, that really does help us grow the show. We really appreciate it. We've been doing this for a long time now. We're coming up on episode, what is it? Public episode number 250. I think this episode is 245. So like in 5 more episodes, we'll have 250 publicly released episodes. So we appreciate your support. We hope to make hundreds more. potentially a lot more than that. So thank you for your time, your support. We love you. Happy mixing, my friends, and stay saucy.